Hello, I'm Chris Solo, and welcome to the Fabled 42, where we build community through friendship, gaming, and chaos. We are doing quests and answers, where we go on a quest to find the answers for you. I have a special guest with me, Justin from Vault 42.
Hey guys, how's it going? I am Justin. I play Marcus Cole on Vault 42. It's good to be here.
I'm very excited to have you. And today we're going to be talking about the Monk class in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Very excited to kind of dive into this. I've actually never played a Monk. I have DM'd a few of them, but I've never played one. So let's talk high level, I guess, Justin. Like, why choose a Monk opposed to choosing something else?
That's a good question. A lot of people probably don't go with Monk for a variety of reasons. They probably would tend to go with a fighter or barbarian, even if they want to go with someone who's melee and up close. But monks do offer a few kind of neat things that the other classes don't. They don't rely on brute strength, and they don't rely on high HP. So you have to be a little bit crafty when you're playing them. But what they are good at is having a lot of attacks miss them.
Yes. And
consistently hitting their opponent.
Yeah.
So you're usually going to hit, and a lot of times they're going to miss you.
Yeah.
They have possibly one of the strongest abilities in the game with Stunning Strike.
Oh yeah,
And they get that at level 5.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of creatures aren't immune to stun, surprisingly. So
yeah.
It can. I've DM'd a few where that stun condition is, kind of just throws you for a loop as a DM.
Sure, sure.
As a player, it's kind of satisfying to completely neutralize a single creature.
Absolutely. I mean, that's where the stun lock
yeah, for
came
sure.
into play. And I feel like you were in April's corner during Mythical Melee.
Possibly.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nasty ability, and I've actually changed a lot of creatures just so I don't get caught like that when I had the monk before. When I had a monk player before. But, you also, as a DM, you have to be careful to you're not trying to rip something away from a player so they can enjoy it, but you want to make sure it's still balanced so other people are having fun. Because if, the monk is always stun locking something, the players are like, well, this is kind of pointless. Why are we attacking this thing that's stunned, right? So then, there's that balance or whatever. But
it does take up a key point to use.
Yes.
So there is a finite amount of those. So it is a resource they have to spend to do it.
That is also absolutely true. So when choosing your monk, what are some of the key characteristics that you think about when building your monk?
I don't like being a big stat guy. But you kind of have to be for a monk. You have to go hardcore into dexterity first, and wisdom second. Dexterity is your primary attack, and it's your primary part of your primary defense. Wisdom is the other portion. So your dexterity and your wisdom combined give you your monk's AC, and you're typically not going to wear armor as a monk. I've never seen a monk wear armor. I don't know why you would. Usually, bracers of defense is the only thing you'll ever need. But that wisdom also is your saving throw, your opponent's saving throw. So your key save. You do your stunning strike, it's your wisdom plus your proficiency, plus 8, I guess. But that's a very key point, because stunning strike's not going to work if everybody passes it. So if you have a 1 in wisdom, you're not going to stun anybody. So those are probably your 2 key stats. After that, it's kind of up to you. I mean, Constitution is probably what you might want to go with, because of you don't want to be too low in health. But after that, honestly, it's whatever type of character you want to play. Do you want to be a little bit more charismatic? Do you want to be intelligent? So it's really up to the player. But you can't get away from dexterity and wisdom. You have to pump those up first.
Yeah, of course. And so, like, someone who's playing a monk for the first time, is there a certain tradition that you would suggest that they should probably go, just so they can kind of figure out how to play a monk and in which direction?
That is probably where it gets the most tricky. Probably one of the biggest, I don't want to say failings, but one of the most problematic things about monk is that their traditions on the whole are a little lackluster. I think Open Hand was one of the first ones released, and they all have kind of neat things about them. Most of them have something to do when you do an unarmed strike, which is a monk ability, or I'm sorry, flurry of blows, which is a monk ability. That you can do something extra. You can knock an opponent prone. You can do extra damage. You can change your damage type. You can even make it a ranged attack in some subclasses. but they're not. None of them are going to be, say, super powerful like a berserker or something like that on the barbarian side. Some of them don't feel as fleshed out as some of the other ones. Like they just made them to make them almost. But there are a few that have some super powerful abilities. Like I think it's Long Death, which I think is what April played in the melee. And that has the ability to just bring you back to life, which is incredibly powerful. Like not just in PvP, but just in general, it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, it was an interesting combination because April didn't play against my barbarian, which that would have been a great fight. But I was playing someone else's barbarian when it was just me and her at the end. But you know, we were joking back and forth because she had that ability and she had a lot of ki left where she'd bounce back and up, and then I, being the orc barbarian, I had a couple abilities where I could fall and pop back up, and then I would keep making the save, which I had like a plus 12 to my save or something. So I think I failed it at 35. You know, so like it was ridiculous, and I was rolling really well. It was on Vorpal too, so it was just fun. But that's kind of how we figured I would end. Was like I'd knock her out, and then she'd knock me out, and then I'd knock her out until one of us ran out of something.
Yeah. It's those abilities. Sometimes you look past them because you don't think you're going to go down that often, and then a lot of times in a group fight you don't. And they're definitely probably more handy in PvP, but it is an incredibly strong ability.
Yeah, absolutely.
But honestly, the best thing for you to do as a player is to go to like D&D Beyond or one of the wiki pages and just look at all the subclasses and read a little bit about them, like the backstory about them. That's personally what I like to look at the backstory of it and see what tradition, that's what the monks call their subclasses, the monastic traditions, and see what appeals to you as a player.
Absolutely.
Then look at some of the abilities and see if you think they might fit how you like to play, or if it's something you want to try. A lot of times you might find that you don't think that that's something you want to do. Sometimes you're going to see something and think that that's super cool. You definitely want to try it. So I would just recommend, there's about 10, I think, subclasses right now. Okay. And a couple UAs out there. But the best thing to do is just look at them all and see which one fits you.
Perfect. When building your monks, whether or not you've used these in your characters or you want to use some of these in characters in the future, feats. Now, I know you want to bump stats, so essentially, level 4 or level 8, you're probably just doing.
Boost to depending on what race you choose, you're probably just doing boost to stats, like a +2 to Dex, +2 to Wisdom, depending on what you rolled, but. There are a few feats that I think, and also if you're multi-classing, obviously that can change things. That can change things drastically too. Yeah. Currently, I'm playing a monk that has got a couple levels in sorcerer, and it's taking a couple levels in paladin, which I had to take. I had to take a +2 strength just to be able to get to do paladin because I had a number of strengths. But and the reason I did that was for the get some smites in, because one thing you'll find with monks later at that later level, their damage output does not level compared to other players. Sure. So something you have to keep in mind is your damage is going to tend to be on the lower end, but you make up for it in other ways. You're going to be the fastest player in the map. Sure. So you don't have to worry about any feats that give you speed. You're going to have speed for days. You can run up walls, so you don't need to. You don't have to worry about a lot of that kind of stuff. You can run on water. You don't have to worry about.
And some of the mistakes I made early on, being a very new DM, because a lot of people don't know this, I've only DM'd for 3 years. Like when I first started doing Realms is when I DM'd, and one of my first players was a monk, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. But later on, because of that same thing, the damage output wasn't there. I'd given him some magic brass knuckles, essentially. That just gave him it's like a +10 every punch or something like that, where it stacked with the other magic items the other players had. So then it felt like they were still, because I had some players that were doing like 200 damage in one turn, right? Monks can be hard pressed to. They can set another player up to do that with some strength, but they're going to be hard pressed to do it themselves. Yeah. And that's a good thought right there that you just mentioned. You need to, if you're going to play monk, you need to partner with your DM ahead of time. Yeah. And you may think that's weird because monk is a well played class in general. Yeah. But there's not a lot of items out there for monks or designed specifically for monks. Yeah. So you may want to partner with your DM on thoughts you may have or thoughts they may have about custom items, because other than the few items like Staff of Striking, which is kind of a high end item, there's not a lot of items out there for Yeah, I actually have wraps.
monks.
I put it public on D&D Beyond, so maybe you can, if you just type in wraps, I think it'll pop up. But it's like, it's wraps of the Eclipse Moon or something like that, where it gives you like a +3 to attack and damage or something. So it just, it gives you, it's a very, I think it's a rare item, I can't remember. But yeah, I mean, coming up with items like that to balance the thing. Same thing with spellcasters, right? Like spellcasters, certain like normal spells you don't get to do more damage, like it kind of depending on what you're doing and how you're doing it. So like yeah, talking with DM prior is always a good thing.
But to circle back around to feats, there is one that I would definitely look at as a monk, especially if you're playing in a group with other melee fighters. Sentinel.
Oh yeah.
It's super powerful feat for in general for a lot of melee, but like barbarians will probably want to look into that kind of thing, but monks especially, to stop a player from moving at all.
Yeah.
Also being able to kind of counterattack if they attack an ally within melee range. It's a powerful feat that you should, if you're good with your stats.
Yes. So you know, that's an interesting thing. So if you're good with your stats and you take Sentinel and you're next to your barbarian and the enemy attacks the barbarian and you get a free shot, are you able to apply a key to that shot because it's a reaction?
I'd have to look at it again. My current monk does not have Sentinel.
Yeah.
So I can't say for sure, but I think you can, because it doesn't say it has to be. You can even do it on a flurry of blows. You can apply stunning strike.
Yeah.
So that's on the technically a bonus action.
Because I mean, in theory, if you played your monk like that with Sentinel,
yeah, you could stun them.
You could like so if you know the big bad has 3 attacks and he takes his first attack on the barbarian and you stun him, then his turn is done. And then he no longer can attack.
And it lasts until the end of your next turn. So depending on when your turn order is, especially if that's in the beginning of the map, you could get a stunning strike before your turn even begins. But just reading the wording on it, it's when you hit a creature with a melee weapon attack, you spend a key point to attempt. Obviously, they get a save.
But yeah, I mean, so you can get that's really nasty.
Yes, and it also forces the if it's a legendary creature with legendary save, they have to think about, do they want to use that on that, which they probably would. Which means then that the next spell that hits them or something, they may not be able to do because they know, at least the DM does, that another stunning strike's coming their way.
Oh yeah. And you'll get like 2 of those. So
yeah, so that means your spellcasters are going to be that much more powerful because the monk, the DM is a little afraid of that stunning strike.
Oh, yeah.
He has to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Unless that creature is immune, and a lot of times legendary stuff does become immune to stun.
Yeah, but there are other things that monks could do too with the key.
For sure.
Yeah. So
their flurry of blows, almost all the classes has something extra that key point does. Also, at later level, around I think 13 or 14, like you just generally don't fail saves. It's like you're a walking paladin. Your proficiency is applied to all saves, and you can use a key point to reroll if you fail. So, in general, and heaven forbid if you're next to a paladin, I mean, you're plus 20 to all your saves. So
yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. So, looking back at the monks that you've played, do you have a favorite character that you've played? Like combination, like is it a race, monk, tradition combination that you really enjoyed, or was it like the campaign setting that you enjoyed?
Well, actually, currently the one I'm playing now that April's actually running is probably my favorite. I've played a couple. I've almost always combined them. I almost always multi-class in something else. And I do that pretty much with all my characters, and good or bad, I don't know. I always do that. I kind of just like some of his backstory, but I don't know. And it's not because of a race or it's not because of anything special. It's just I think it's just because of the setting that we're in. But I was because of it happened the way my stats rolled out. I was able to multi-class into a spellcasting and the paladin later on, and I just never thought of doing a monk as a spellcaster as well, because they're high AC, kind of, if you're going to have to cast a few spells, and also you can cast the spells on yourself to make your either your AC higher or disadvantage on attacks against you, some different things to help boost yourself.
Yeah, spellcaster that's hard to hit is a challenging thing.
Plus shield. I mean, if you get shield, then I mean your AC sitting there like a 29 or something, it's going to be kind of difficult to hit you. And then you said something about the races that fit well with monk, and in general, you want something that boosts your dexterity and or your wisdom. But I know that they're in the UA now. They're testing it. I think they're going to get away from the races giving you specific stat boosts. It might be either tied to backgrounds or it's going to be tied to you can boost whatever you want. Or you get a single static boost, like a Goliath may get strength boost, but then your other boost is your choice.
Got it.
To give more flexibility with that.
Yeah, without hindering, one of your other characters. If you want to be I don't know, like a Kenku or something. And,
right. Well, a lot of times when you want to play a certain, you almost have to pick a specific race. You almost have to go half elf to get the charisma boost or something.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to free you up from choosing whatever you want.
Got it. Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense.
I think it's a good idea. I don't know if I would tie it to background like they were talking about, but
yeah, that
you have to think of something to make it have it make sense.
So, yeah, I mean, just having a choice, I think it makes sense. Like you have one static one and then one choice.
Yeah, like Goliath, it makes sense that strength would be their thing.
Sure.
But to be able to then choose intelligence, something like that, to have a Goliath wizard, I mean, that just seems kind of cool. You don't see them.
Yeah, well, you'll see one tonight at not tonight. This show from the future, but we do have a Goliath wizard in the Wizards of Ukador thing, which was fun. It's just fun. We have a Goliath and we have a Hobgoblin, which is just fun to see different kind of wizards. But yeah, so so thinking about monks and thinking about how well-rounded and awesome they are, and how utility, but then also helpful, and they kind of feel. Like to me at least, especially with the key points and stuff, it kind of feels like that person, in volleyball where you're setting up the spike, right? So like you're doing something to do whatever. Like I play a College of Eloquence Bard, which either I set up myself or I set up somebody else, because then they get a negative whatever roll. So if you start stacking your party with players that kind of set up like the wizard, and then the wizard comes in and just hits hard, or whatever it is, it really builds that player dynamic in the party that you're kind of piggybacking off of each other and doing these kind of team combo moves where you do freeze, and then someone comes in and whacks them, right? So it's kind of a fun thing to watch a monk in a good dynamic.
The monk's speed and their utility abilities with Stunning Strike and some of the other flurry of blow abilities, some of them let you knock prone, and a prone creature can be just as good as a stun creature for a melee attacker.
Yeah.
I mean, you could in theory stun at least 4 creatures in one single round, assuming they fail their saving throws with your speed, doing flurry of blows, and as long as you're 5th level for multi attack. So, I mean, you can really free up the battlefield.
Absolutely.
To let your allies come in and wreck face. Now, your damage is not going to be totally crazy.
No, but
you're only hitting one creature time. But with Stunning Strike, your allies are going to get advantage on the attack. More than likely, I believe if they're stunned, they automatically fail dexterity saving throws. So, I mean, your spellcaster is really going to.
Absolutely, yeah, they're going to clean house.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I kind of feel like I want to play monk at some point. So, looking at all of the fun monk features, do you have one that's your favorite? Is there, from 1 to 20, is there one feature that really sticks out to you or is fun to use?
Not skipping Stunning Strike, because that's obviously very powerful. One of the things I've always enjoyed about them is their movement is nice, because you're going to be the fastest player on the field, so you can get pretty much anywhere you need. Being able to use key points in other ways, like doing Step of the Wind, allowing you to move, basically kind of like a rogue dashing. As a bonus action, is nice. But honestly, the thing that I probably use that comes in the most handy is evasion. Because it, I didn't even, when I first started, I didn't even know they had evasion. But when I got to 7, I found out they did. That's super handy to have, because so many creatures do abilities or spells that are dexterity saving based, and as a monk, you have a high dexterity. You pass that save, you're taking no damage.
Yeah,
and that's something as a monk you want to do, is take no damage. Because,
so when you fight Tiamat, you make sure you have a monk on the team.
There you go. And there's some other things later on. You can, as an action, make yourself not frightened or charmed.
Oh yeah.
You become immune to disease and poison. You can speak any language.
Yeah, those are some fun. Those are some fun.
And again, speaking any language doesn't have a whole lot of combat.
Sure.
But it has a lot of role play.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So there's a lot of things like that add to it, I think.
We are getting close to the end of our time. So in 30 seconds or so, what is your favorite tradition and why?
Well, my favorite tradition is one that I made myself, and it's Shaolin Monk. It's based off the Kung Fu TV series. But if I had to choose one that is in existence now, honestly, it's the Long Death. It's the one that April actually played.
Yeah.
It just became my favorite after seeing it actually played in person.
It worked really well.
It has a lot of abilities that she didn't get to use.
Yeah.
It has a lot of other abilities that she didn't get a chance to use. So it's a super neat class.
Yeah, awesome.
I'm so glad.
Well, Justin, thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget to catch Justin on Vault 42 at 6:30 p.m. Pacific on Saturdays. This is Quests and Answers, and we went on a quest to find the answers about the monk class. I am Chris Solo. You can find me in all social media at DM Chris Solo, and we will see you guys next time.